Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Dongguk University. Today, I have the honor to sit here in the university that my teacher attended, Seung San. And before he became a great teacher, before his enlightenment, he studied here. And in fact, he was very heavily criticized when he was a monk because he was an educated monk. And in those days, there weren't many very highly educated monks. So he was revolutionary in that way. So every time I come to this great university, I feel humbled and honored and a little bit somewhat emotional. Yes, monks can become a little bit emotional, not in a bad way, but I feel the feeling of my teacher walking around the main administration building here. So it's an honor anytime to come to Dongguk University to teach. Today, the subject, well, it's interesting. The subject is throw away all religion. Throw away all religion. It's interesting. I just got to Korea 2 days ago. And I was going through some of my old books and papers, throwing away, constantly trying to throw away. And I got to this stack of papers that had, for some reason, my schedule for the last 10 years for some requirement for the Korean government or something. I gave a talk in 2002 in Dongguk University called What is True Religion? It's the same subject as today, actually. Throw away all religion. In 1882, the great philosopher, one of my favorite philosophers when I was in university, Friedrich Nietzsche, said, God is dead. God is dead. We killed him. We killed him. And what this means, this was an important moment in Western civilization because a great philosopher recognized that already 1882, already we are living without God. He didn't. Some people say Nietzsche declared or Nietzsche killed God. Nietzsche actually was declaring, as I see it in 1882, today in 1882, we have already killed God. So he already knew. And he wasn't the only one. Later, Einstein, in I think it was about 1937 or 38, you can Google this. Einstein, he wrote about religion, or the future of religion, after the splitting of the atom, when human beings seem to have created this enormous ability to control nature in some way. Einstein said, the religion of the future will be basically scientific, or a religion of the mind. It will not be based on myths, but it will be based on natural laws. Natural laws. And then he said, and actually, if you ask me if there's any religion any religious practice that's already like this, I say that's Buddhism. Very interesting. Okay, so that's Nietzsche's view as a philosopher. That's Einstein's view as a scientist. So, actually, the title of today's talk, Throw Away All Religion, seems shocking, especially at a sectarian university, outwardly at least. It seems like it, but it's not shocking. It's not shocking at all. In fact, you could go back to Descartes, who said, I think, therefore I am. He didn't say, I believe in God, therefore I am, or this happened, or therefore I am. He said, I think, therefore I am. So it should be very natural for us. It should be very, very natural for us to acknowledge that we already live in a post-religious world. We already live in a post-religious consciousness. I don't read many books, but I'm a big fan of people like Professor Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens and, of course, Bill Maher. I don't know if a lot of you guys are kind of crazy about him. Because they kind of stir the pot among intellectuals or non-intellectuals, doesn't matter, with showing the world that it is quite funny that we continue to cling to mythical explanations of the world. Mythical explanations of the world. Our own grandparents, of everyone in this room, every one of us in this room, our grandparents, no matter how old you are, whether you're already, like me, rather older, or whether you're a young student, our grandparents believed when, as now in the United States, in a state like Texas, when there's no rain or not much rain for 6 years or 7 years, oh, the gods are angry. We have not been believing enough. Yeah? The gods have been angry at us. This is how human civilization has flown, has existed. But now we have supercomputers. We know that patterns of weather, we know that patterns of precipitation, we know that patterns of high pressure and low pressure only come from cause and effect, minute causes and effects, some of them very clear to the eye, and some of them connected. The lack of rain in Texas this year, for the last 6 years, is because of a low pressure system unusual over Central America, and that low pressure system is caused by currents in the Pacific Ocean off of Chile that are unusual, going in a different direction, and that's connected to El Nino over the Philippines. So we know cause and effect. Cause and effect. Everything is created by cause and effect. Just cause and effect. So, it is foolish for anyone to search for an understanding of the world through religion as an explanation. Religion cannot explain this world. It cannot. Nowadays, I teach meditation. I teach Zen in Greece, in Germany and in Greece. I also I practice yoga. Greece, there's a yoga group that I practice with while teaching Zen meditation. And it's great to go to Greece because you see all of these gods. Everywhere you go are these broken buildings and old altars and places, and this is where Zeus was. This mountain is very high because that is where Zeus was born. And this part is very low because this is where there was a fight, and this part of the cliff fell into the sea. And anyone with an educated mind, when I was a boy, I used to believe in the Greek gods. I was raised very, very Christian. I was raised very, very, very Christian. And I would pray and pray and pray. I would pray for good grades. I would pray to be popular. I would pray to be better in baseball. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Usually it didn't. So then, when that didn't work, I was reading the Greek myths. Zeus, Jupiter, Hera, Theseus, Perseus, the Minotaur of Crete, Aphrodite. In those days, when praying to the Christian God didn't work, sometimes secretly I would say, okay, Zeus, this deal with the Christian God isn't working out too well, but if you give me special powers to hit a home run tomorrow, I will believe you. So again, but it had the same rate of success, 50-50. So it's interesting if you go to Greece now, you see this, and it's just normal. We just take a picture with our iPhone and move on. The altars to a Perseus, or the place where the Minotaur. I was at the temple, the palace of Knossos this summer. So we don't need to take away religion. We only hold religion to the extent that we don't believe in our own mind. That's all. So, religion does not help us understand cancer and its causes. And religion does not cure anyone from cancer or its causes. Religion does not explain different weather systems, and it does not help us adapt or prevent ourselves from further damaging weather systems. Religion gives us no insight into why children are born with birth defects, or why certain people are born with certain behavioral qualities, why people do things, why people don't do things. Religion does not explain it at all. At best, religion is, as the Buddha said himself, it's an explanation as to give a child, a crying baby. When a baby is crying and you want the baby to stop crying, the Buddha said, it's like giving a child a golden leaf and saying, that's gold. You like gold? And then the baby maybe will stop crying. So, we just chanted here the Heart Sutra. This is amazing. This Heart Sutra. This is chanted in every Korean temple. Not only every Korean temple, every Japanese temple, Chinese temple, Tibetan temple, Vietnamese temple. 3 times a day. This. In Chinese characters, it's 270 characters. It's very short. It's extremely short. But in this 270 characters is a deeply, deeply scientific insight into the nature of reality and into the nature of mind. This, what we just chanted. In Korean, we chant this 3 times a day. We roll over it sometimes. But this contains not a religious statement. There's only really 1% religion in this. Not even. But a huge amount of science. So, we are born in this world. We know why we are born in this world from a scientific point of view. Yeah? A sperm meets an egg, develops an embryo. The embryo grows according to conditions. Those conditions can be affected scientifically, chemically, even psychologically, and produces a result. Cause and effect. Cause and effect. Scientifically, we know why we are born in this world. We know how things are born. Our grandparents did not. At least our great-grandparents did not. This, obviously, to all of us, we're here in Korea. We're in one of the most advanced cultures, one of the most advanced societies in the world, South Korea. Or from America, or if you're from Germany, Europe. That might not seem like a very important point, but in a lot of the world, in still a large part of the world in 2013, the view of how things happen is not based on science. It's based on superstition, religion. So this is an extremely important point. And when you open the newspaper, when you turn on the news, you are still facing the fact that a huge amount of this world's people still does not believe that science explains this world. And they think that some teaching from the 14th century or the Iron Age explains this world better. I was just in the United States 2 weeks ago, and I was teaching in some temples, doing some practice, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing, when visiting with some monk friends or family, to turn on the TV, and even in America in 2013, to see on Fox News, various broadcasting networks, debates, supposedly intelligent, over the nature of conception, over the nature of what is a good death, over the nature of what is a human being, physically, spiritually. So even in countries like America, and I will say even in Korea, there is still great ignorance, alongside great enlightenment and understanding, great ignorance, which is attempting to cover the great insight that we get through science. Now we return to the Heart Sutra. Very interesting. The Heart Sutra doesn't say you have to believe anything. We are at Dongguk University, and we have to, it is courteous to, we don't have to, but it is courteous to acknowledge that outside in the central plaza is a figure, the Buddha, standing there. The main shrine, there's a Buddha behind me. Supposedly, this Heart Sutra was said by the Buddha. But this is not religion, actually, in the pure sense of religion. This is not religion. There's nothing religious about this, except maybe the one point about this being a great mantra here. But that, you can kind of forget it and still get the point of this. There's nothing in here which declares you must believe this or else. But it does say, it does act extremely scientifically. In fact, many people call the teachings of the Buddha the most scientific spirituality that was ever developed. Because the Buddha, before he died, said, don't believe anything I said just because I said it. Don't believe it just because I said it. For that reason, test it. Just test what I said. Then, if when you test it, it turns out to be true, then I taught you the truth. If your test of this shows that what I said is false, then I taught you a lie. You find out. It's just like this statement, E equals mc squared. E equals mc squared. Einstein's famous statement. We don't believe that just because Einstein said it. It is not believed merely out of faith. And it's definitely not believed out of compulsion, requirement. necessity to be considered an educated person, E equals mc squared has been tested hundreds of thousands of times by scientists in many, many cultures. And it always turns out that Einstein was right. Therefore, we believe it. Because we tested it. Therefore, we believe it. But that's not how religion functions. That's not how religion functions. Religion is about compulsion. Religion says you must believe something. This is true because said it. This is worth following because said it. Or this is true because it's in that old book. But if you try to test it, or if you try to criticize this, it is considered insulting. So, someone described philosophy, the difference between philosophy, metaphysics, and religion. Philosophy is like trying to catch a cat in a dark room. Metaphysics is trying to catch a cat that's not in the dark room. Religion is like trying to catch a cat that's not in a dark room and saying, I caught it! That's religion. Anyone who is completely certain that they have caught the cat, even though it's not in the room, is a religious believer. So that's a beautiful statement about the differences. It's really interesting because I was raised in a very classical, typical Western household with a very scientific household. My mother has a PhD in biochemistry. My father worked with computers, sold computers in the 1970s. I was handling computers in my house when I was a child, before people knew them except on TV. And yet still I was encouraged to believe things that I knew could not be true. That I knew could not be true. So always there was this fight in my mind, because my natural understanding said to believe something like the world created in 6 days, that a man and a woman were created first, and then they had 2 sons, and then all of us came from those 2 sons. And then they say gay marriage is not correct. I love that. That's religion, in any religion, in any cult, in any compelled belief system. It clashes with your reason. But now look at this, very interesting. This is extraordinary. Actually, this entire teaching can finish after the 3rd paragraph. Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. All form is just emptiness. Emptiness is just form. The same is true of sensations, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness. Then the next. Shariputra, all dharmas, which means all laws are marked with emptiness. They do not appear or disappear. That's all. That's what this is. Form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from form. That is but it does not compel you. Shariputra says, look. But actually, this can be tested. This can be tested. This is not something to be believed. And here is the beauty. Here is where this teaching, although Dongguk University has we have to classify things. Yeah, this is a building. This is a glass of water. We have to classify things with words. So we have to say this is a Buddhist denomination university. Whereas in fact, to be really deeply realistic and honest about it, it is a Buddhist university. But Buddhism is not a denomination or a religion in the sense that religion is defined based on compulsion, belief, compulsive instruction, or fear. So all of this is tested. Actually, this talk that I was here to give you, this Dharma talk was already finished before I opened my mouth. Why? This is the beauty of this. This makes me want to weep with gratitude, with pure gratitude to have found this teaching. Because they had you stand there and read this together. We all read this together, right? Then we put it down. Watch this. Form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from form. They said E equals MC squared equals E. That's basically that statement. Then they said, okay, now we're going to sit down and have 20 seconds of meditation. No speech. Just you looking into your mind. The thoughts you have about today, tomorrow, I have to fix my thing. Will I get the iPhone 4 or 5S, or will I stick with the iPhone 4S? Maybe I'll go to the Galaxy. Maybe the thoughts coming and going, coming and going. And you see that the form of the thought is changing. It has no fixed form. It has no fixed identity. It's constantly moving, changing. It has no substance. You see that? Oh, tomorrow I have to go. Maybe I don't want to. Tonight I want. Tomorrow I have to do this. I have a deadline. Maybe I should go here. I don't know. Maybe I'll go to Busan tomorrow. I don't know. Then it's Dharma. Oh, okay. Dharma talk. What's he going to say? Boom. From one thought to another. No form. The form of the thought has no substance. It has no constant identity. So it's beautiful. That's the end of this teaching. That's what's so beautiful about this. They give you this form is not different from emptiness. Emptiness is not different from form. Then, this is the experiment phase. Really. This is just you looking. No one is talking. No one is telling you what you're experiencing. It's your own eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. Watching. Watching. Who heard that? Who hears that sound? Who's here? That thought, where did it come from? Where? That thought, where did it come from? That watching. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It's investigation. Then then you get something better than a book, better than a PhD from this university or Harvard. You get your experience of that. You get your experience of form and emptiness. You see for yourself, just like the Buddha said. Don't believe this just because the Buddha said it, just because it's Buddhist, just because it's Heart Sutra, just because this is Dongguk University, just because this came from heaven, just because this was said by the Golden Lip Buddha, just because Song Chosning talked about this, just because this is in a book, just because this is Chinese characters. Don't believe it. Do not believe this. Don't believe the Heart Sutra. Look. Watching your breath. Who hears that? Who? What is the thing that hears that? Just that looking, just that. That examination, that study. That's what we mean by meditation. Only that. It has nothing to do with a religion. It has nothing. That and religion are a billion, quadrillion miles apart. It has zero to do with religion. Meditation has nothing to do with religion. Although some religions can have something to do with meditation, a little. But meditation has nothing to do with religion. Zero. So when you and your mind completely become one, that's meditation. It doesn't need God. It doesn't need the Bible. It doesn't need a sutra. It doesn't need a Buddha. It doesn't need a temple. It doesn't need a church. It doesn't need a synagogue. It doesn't need a sanim. It doesn't need a shinbunim. It doesn't need a rabbi. It's already complete. All great teachers have already said that. Even Jesus said that. But the people with him weren't really paying attention. And very few of the ones who followed him too. So they attached to it, made some form, made it beautiful, put a house on it, put some clothing, now we've got religion. Okay, so that's the point of this talk. This is extraordinary. The heart of this tradition, the heart of what happens here is meditation. And meditation means only one thing. Meditation is just a fancy word. It is a fancy, misunderstood word. Meditation only means investigation. It doesn't mean a special posture. It doesn't mean a special breathing of any mystical kind. It doesn't mean looking for some other state. It means just returning to this moment. Returning to this moment. Completely attaining this moment. This is my life. That's all. So, the past is just a thought. The past is just thinking. Future is also just a thought. Yeah. Tomorrow I'm meeting someone for lunch. That's just a thought. That does not exist. Yesterday I went to the doctor. I had some treatment for my eye. That's just a thought. They do not exist. But this moment, my life is only this moment. This moment is my whole life. So, if you attain that, You're better than God, better than Buddha. If you don't attain that, then you attach to religion, attach to myth, attach to some teaching, attach to some idea or philosophy. So very simple. That's what's so beautiful about this. This is only a key to investigation. So this is very wonderful coming here to the Kukje Sun Center in Dongguk University, because this is just a laboratory. This is a laboratory. This does not function like a church. This does not function like a religious space where I go and pray to something outside me, some absolute, some being higher than me. It's extraordinary. Not just here, when you walk, when you shower, when you eat, when you have tea, when you're waiting in line at Starbucks, when you're reading the paper, when you're on the toilet. It's the same moment. Actually, it's the same moment. It's the same moment. But we're thinking. So we lose it, we forget it, we go into tomorrow, make yesterday, last year, when I go, I have to do this, I don't want to have that, I don't want to meet this person, I have to meet this, I have this problem. But that is just thinking. It's like someone who's drunk or a person in the dream. None of it really exists. So, I've said already way too many words right now. Throw away all religion is also a big mistake. The title of this talk is a big mistake. You can't throw away something that doesn't exist. Point is, we make religion and we attach to religion. And 90% of the problems in this world are created by people with religion. 90%. 90%. So, throw away all religion means meditation. It just means meditation. It's not a radical action. It's not a social action. It's not something you got to get out into the street and demonstrate to do. You don't have to sign things or try to convince people. You can't argue with people. Don't try to argue with people who have religion, by the way. It's a real, Meditation. What am I? Just looking. Just looking. Just looking. That's better than any kind of religion. Okay? So I want to thank you all for coming today and encourage you to practice. Don't attach to any religion. Look into your true nature, get enlightenment, and save all beings from suffering. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.